Wednesday, May 26th, special edition of Solid Waste Subcommittee of Planning and Engineering. Tonight we are reviewing the scoring of our 9 RFPs along with some other business as how we're going to move forward with our scoring decisions in terms of who may make a short list, getting invite to all the cities and other stakeholders as we move forward with our negotiations. So, no need to take roll. Looks like everybody's here but Robert P. I hope you all have calendars with you as we will try and pin down some approximate dates as we move forward. So, does everybody have their summary of the RFP scores and a reminder of who was who and the brief bullet point summaries of those particular presentations? Do you all have those? A simple nod of the head would be. You don't have scores?
They should.
It should be a landscaped. You can have mine if you. Okay. Do you have an extra? Commissioner Reed, would you like one to follow along? All right. As you can see, these are ranked at the bottom of the spreadsheet, 1 through 9. And they're also, you can see the weighted averages in bold there at the bottom of the tallies. So Waste Management had the highest score, Republic Services number 2, Waste Away number 3, Pratt number 4, and so on down the list. I'm going to assume, which is dangerous, but I'm going to assume we do not need to have all 9 back to go into more detail. So what is the committee's pleasure in terms of shortlisting some for coming back and going further into questions, answers, and negotiations? Or do we want to start from scratch and get a fresh start, or invite some more folks in? What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I suggest the top 4.
All right. Is that a motion, Mr. Blair?
I thought maybe you might want to have some discussion from other members, and if the discussion doesn't get robust, then I will be more than happy to make that motion.
Okay. So that is not a motion at this point, but the first out of the comment out of the gate is the top 4, which would be again Waste Management, Republic Services, Waste Away, and Pratt Recycling. Any other thoughts, Mac?
I would suggest that you look at what each of the 9 offered and pick what you think they have that you would like and go from that approach, because it may be you mix and match and you don't want to narrow it down to just 1 or 2.
All right. Also a good suggestion. As I recall, a majority of these folks were willing. Well, first of all, a majority only concentrated on 1 or 2 of the several options that we had in the RFP, so consequently a mix and match would work with some partnership. Even some of the players that had multiple boxes checked also talked about their willingness to work with others in certain areas of expertise. So Mac, that being said, did you have any particular groups or companies that you thought might partner up, or was that just a general comment?
A little bit of both. our number 6 rank, Rockwood, had a lot of things to offer as far as working with others and grinding situations. C&D waste, helping with compost. I mean, his was kind of, so I'd like to kind of leave that open to where that is a possibility if that's the direction you want to go. Nobody really discussed composting a lot, but Waste Management and Republic both do some of that. So you may want, if that's the direction you want to go, when you have a second or third interview with them, to kind of bring that up. There's a lot of stuff here. The biggest disappointment is there's no true C&D waste solution given. I think there's some out there that you can read into, but nobody just jumped all over that. So that's something I think we need to look at real seriously.
Did besides myself, did anybody else get the feeling that the first step is to do the recycling criteria and the potential, well, at the same time, concurrently, the legislative battles with ordinances on recycling and the training within the schools, within the households, within the businesses? Did anybody feel that was a critical first step before we do anything from a major investment standpoint, or was that just me? Comments?
Chairman, I felt like the quickest and largest impact on our waste stream would be through a robust, sorry to use that word again, but a robust recycling program.
You know, in terms of our current situation, that, you call it a double-edged sword. We recycle, let's just say, in a perfect world, we recycle, we make money off those recyclable items, right, which for the most part now wind up in a landfill. So we get money for that. We reduce the volume of waste going into Middle Point, which helps from the space standpoint for Republic, adds longevity to Republic, which also means they could put more solid waste in there instead of recyclables, which ultimately is a good thing. But again, it's a double-edged sword depending on who you talk to. So at some point, whenever that point is, the Middle Point will be at a capacity. Again, not knowing if that's 5 years, 10 years, or whenever, but at some point it will be. So if we have a solid recycling program in place, then the next step is more in our control as to what we want to do, if we want to expand then to step 2, MRF, or something else. But I'm just pontificating at this point. I'm not trying to sway or do anything at this point. I'm just going from the things we've learned and things we've seen in the last month. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I concur with your comments. I think the first step would be, and we've said this before, I've said it, that we have to change the culture in our community. And that will start through education. We're just barely on the thumbnail of that, but through education, schools get opened back up. We start educating and planting the seed in our younger people. The company that stood out to me the most, even though Waste Management and Republic can do that, however, if you read Republic's, and Waste Management said, we'll do whatever, because they're the largest in the country. They'll do whatever we want to do. And then I guess they just kind of left the door open for us to sit down and start negotiating with them. Republic was a little more pointed in that they were willing to come in and build a MRF with the pickers on the conveyor belts, dropping the trash in once the waste stream gets large enough to justify their expenditure on several $1 million facility. What I was in Waste Away, I really liked their process. I mean, because it's sanitized, it comes out clean. They just had no end product, and I look at that picture of their plant in Aruba that's been shuttered for 4 or 5 years now because there's no end product. Pratt impressed me the most in that they're willing to come in and build an indoor MRF in a facility and do what they do best. That's why they're a $2.3 billion company, because they have end products for everything that they bring in. I was totally impressed with them. They have a washer where they clean their water bottles or peanut butter jars. They wash and clean them. Then they have a market in northern Georgia where the carpet plants are located, and they send the plastic up there to make carpet. Then they take all the mixed paper and corrugated cardboard. They're the 5th largest manufacturer. They make all of the Amazon's boxes and AutoZone boxes, all the labels they put up there. I was just very impressed with what they're doing, and so that puts us at a point. Do we start the educational process and start the recycling? And that would eliminate, like you said, Mr. Chairman, some 30-40% of that waste stream from going to Middle Point to be landfilled. We would take it to a facility like Pratt is willing to build from the get-go, as long as it's on a P3. Do we negotiate with them and start the recycling and start changing that culture and how people think in the community, and then do it for 6.5 years or whatever Republic says they have time left? We're still taking our waste stream out there, what's not being recycled, for free. That's what our citizens don't, they haven't got it yet, that we're dumping for free from the long-term contract that we signed in the late 90s. It's free. I'm just, maybe we do it for 6.5 years and then some other technology might come along in 6.5 years. See what presents itself at that point in time. But otherwise, we're just going to keep talking about it and kicking it down the road. We've been doing that for 30 years. It's time to make a decision and try to go some direction. But I know you want to make some other comments about the rest of our community, Mr. Chairman.
Well, Mac, I want to make sure I don't say this wrong. As I'm scanning the summaries, it looks like Rockwood was the only one that was going to actively deal with the construction and demolition waste. Right? Everybody else was just going to say, hey, take that to the landfill.
And didn't Republic, Mr. Chairman, say that they were okay with that? Of taking shingles and demolition to Rockwood? They didn't have a problem with that.
Yeah, they would partner. They did say that in fact, they may already be partnering with Rockwood, or maybe that was Waste Management that said that they had partnered. Yeah. But that leads to a good point. We want to make sure somebody is married up with Rockwood, if that's a possibility. So, yeah, I'm not opposed with keeping Rockwood in a discussion with whoever comes to the table, because certainly I would love to have the construction and demolition material dealt with and keep that out of Middle Point, if possible. or at least find a better use for it other than just simply burying it in the ground. Wayne?
Mr. Chairman, whatever we decide tonight as far as who we bring back and talk with, I presume at that time we will invite the municipalities
Yes.
to the table to find out what their opinions and thoughts and desires are as well.
Right. Number 2 on my to-do list tonight is it's imperative, in my opinion, that going forward from this point, that this committee, under the pen or invitation of the mayor, send out in whatever media avenue or multiple media avenues that we have, handwritten letter, emails, that we invite all city mayors' leadership to be convened in this room as we go forward and continue discussions with whoever we want to shortlist. They need to have a seat at the table. They need to be part of the discussion and be part of the solution, because as we know, some of these players that we are likely going to bring back are going to need more than our 45,000 tons. They will need the city's waste as well. Some would likely like their material from the wastewater treatment plant on top of that. So it's imperative that we get the band together and move forward. So that's mandatory, really, that's what we do going forward. Now, those that may think, oh, well, we're happy with what we have, curbside service, we don't even know where it goes. You know, the garbage trucks pick it up and haul it away somewhere, we don't even know. Well, if it's going to Republic, at some point in time, that thing is going to be filled up, so then it's going to be a problem. So it's best they at least are in the discussion early, because, like I said, 6, 10, who knows, at some point in time, somebody's going to say, hey, sorry, we're full. You got to find something else. Well, they may wish they'd have been talking with us today instead of down the road. So highly encourage the cities to be part of this discussion.
Well, and Mr. Chairman, those city governments will have to answer to their constituents inside their corporate limits if they don't have a part of this. And let's just hypothetically say when Republic closes in 6.5, 7 years, then all of a sudden, where does their garbage go, and at what cost? You know, is it another utility bill? You know, $50 a month added on to every citizen in Rutherford County. So I think that they'll want to be involved in helping choose that direction at this point, not waiting till it happens and then there's no place for them to go and people start dropping their trash bags at City Hall. That won't be cool.
You have any comments or thoughts, Phil?
Yeah, man, oh man, I got lots. So I think that my first thought is this is going to take more conversations.
Oh, yeah.
It was such a wake-up call to encounter these professionals. We're not even close to a MRF, I think, in my opinion. We're not there yet. I think we can hone our collection, hone our recycling, perhaps, but we're not ready for anything, a final solution. So my thoughts are to move this along is I would like to consider having collection, landfill, recycle, C&D, 4 operations come back to us. And all of those have their educational components. Yeah, I'm thinking brick and mortar. So thanks for bringing that up. So if those 4 elements come back with their educational suggestions, I'd like to talk to Waste Management, Republic, Pratt, and Rockwood. I think that gets us towards the next step of, are we going to enhance collection? And or are we going to invest in recycling, which means Pratt and Rockwood. And we're going to continue to landfill, that's Republic. So I don't see us having a solution tonight, but can we draw towards avenues that make sense? Right now, we make $2.5 million. We save 1.5 in tipping fees, and we make 1.25 or so in host fees, somewhere around 2.5. If we decide to recycle, we're going to simply spend $3 million a year. If we're going to do C&D, we're going to spend another couple of million a year. We're going to spend $5 million a year we currently don't spend. That's above and beyond your current $5 million budget, right? So I'm not ready to do any of those avenues until we get with those 4 disciplines one more time, at least one more time. Because I'm just not ready to spend that kind of money in this year's budget or next year's budget. It's my thought. I rambled a lot, except to say I'd like to see those specific companies and their disciplines plus education.
Okay, and to make sure I heard correctly, you said Waste Management, Republic Services, Pratt, and Rockwood?
Correct.
Okay, and your 4, maybe 4.5 disciplines were the landfill,
Yep.
the recycling, the collection, the education, which is kind of for all those. What was
C&D.
C&D. Okay, all right. Does anybody else? I won't necessarily go down the row, but unless you feel,
maybe the fair thing to do is to poll each member of the committee, and like Commissioner Dodd, he gave his 5. Was it 4? 4. Gave his 4, and let each member give their number, be it 2, 4, 6, whatever, and just kind of
see how it shakes out.
Yes, sir. Maybe.
All right.
You know, the statement I'd like to continue to make that, and it kind of piggybacks off of the mayor's philosophy for over the years, that until we make a difference in our carbon footprint in this county, we're spinning our wheels, and we'd have no choice as a county, as a state, or as a nation to do anything but to educate our citizens and encourage everybody to recycle. And if we can make 40% change in what's going into the landfill, I think that's miraculous compared to what's happened in the past. And I would love to see us decrease our carbon footprint.
Yeah. And, I may be very optimistic, but everything in life has ebbs and flows, right? Right now, the recycling industry, for the most part, is down. It's flat. But depending on who you listen to, the smart money says that also will begin to climb. Because of the demands in today's world. So it may be more profitable, and so now's the time to be on board with that. So that, again, from an economic standpoint, we may be hitting it about the right time. But do you have a 4 favorites that you want to throw out there, and we can add to the tally?
Well, I was going to take the 4 top ones, but after listening to some conversation, I think I would like to add Rockwood to as my 5th and have 5 instead of 4.
All right.
I have been convinced to change my mind.
So you're basically, if you look at the tally list summary, you're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to jump in? I'm gonna go with Steve first, unless Steve wants to defer. Yeah, we're always excited to hear what Craig has to say first.
Well, what I've done is I went over my notes, and I haven't asked a lot of questions because I've been paying a lot of attention. But there's some things that stood out that has really taken me to task here. I agree with Commissioner Dodd. I do think that we need to address certain things. But also the one thing that stood out to me more than anything was when Waste Management, who I consider a top person for us to consider, is he said that if there was a magic box, they would already owned it. So as being pro-business I am, I believe that statement. So what I'm going at right there is I'd like, I'd like to see 4 people. And my 4 would be Waste Management, Republic, Rockwood, and Pratt. Now, Pratt also said something that kind of stuck with me too, is they said that they buy a lot of their stuff from Republic and Waste Management. So if I'm seeing that right there, then I'm thinking we might get them anyway. So it could be we could get 2 companies out of this, because I mean, if they're buying the stuff from the Waste Management Republic, then we could utilize that as well. So that's where I'm going to stay with, is on those 4. I agree with Commissioner Dodd. I think C&D is something we have got to focus on. I mean, we have got to focus on that. And another thing too is Waste Management and Republic all said that they would give us a MRF or a recycling center, and that's great, but I kind of feel like that if we're making a commitment to a company for years, then they need to make a commitment to us as well. And so I don't feel like this county needs to wait on a facility. I think that facility should come to us. Because if, we keep talking about recycling, Commissioner Blair just brought it up, the mayor brought it up. We've been doing this for years. But we got to have a reason. I feel like if somebody wants to make a deal with this county, and for multiple years, then that deal's got to be, they got to be in too. They got to have skin in the game as well. And I think we should get this recycling ahead of time instead of waiting 5, 10, 15 years. And that's how I feel about that. So just the reason I'm telling all y'all that is because y'all are going to see what I'm going to be going through and how my process is and what I'm going to be looking at. So I think those 4 are the ones that I really want to talk to. And, everybody knows I've always been about the county landfill and the convenience centers. I've been about that since day one. And, the only 2 that really brought that up was Republic and Waste Management, of course, some other ones, but they're not on my list to, talk to. But that's where I stand on all those as of right now.
All right. Thank you, Craig. Steve?
Rather than pick 4 and eliminate the rest of them, let's pick 4 to look at, and then if there's something left out of our process we're trying to do, leave it open where we can go back and pick 5 or 6 in the end. Mr. Dodd, he had 4 picked out. That's great. But there could be something one of these other companies could do for us that the other 4 cannot, or do at a lesser price, or maybe do with less trash and still pull it off and leave it open where they can come back, where we can come back and maybe pick one that wasn't filled in the gap. My question, the price you threw out on public television for $50 a household, was that theoretical, or did you have something to back that up, Mr. Mayor?
I have no idea what it would cost because we don't have a plan B. But I can promise you it's going to be more than what the city's charging their citizens right now at $10 a month that's put on their, so it just depends what the cost is going to be to transport it out of town.
The reason I asked, most people watching on television hang on numbers,
Yeah.
and we would all hear that tomorrow. I'm not giving $50 to have my trash took care of. I wanted you to say it was just theoretical.
Yes, theoretical.
Thank you.
For sure. It could be more, it could be less. But that's why it's critical, I think, that we bring the other entities to the table, because it's just like life insurance or hospitalization, major medical. The broader the base, the more people who participate, the cheaper the price is. If you have a smaller group to dispose of, it's going to cost a lot more.
I also have a comment on asking the other entities to come. I think it would be wise to either have the letter printed and the chairman and myself, or the chairman and one of the other members hand deliver that and invite them in person, let them know we're for real and it's not just something else coming through the mail.
Sure. I'm happy to do that.
May I ask Steve a question before we go to Shanto?
Yeah.
And I agree with you that I'm not discounting everyone else. I just kind of picked, do you have a top 4 or 5? Knowing that we're not excluding the others, just where's your gut on?
The 4 that you pick's fine, but there could be someone else that could do something they can't do. You know, Republic claims they can do it all. Republic hires other contractors to do 90% of their work. They don't actually do it themselves. They bring in other contractors to do most of their work. So, you know, we could very easily hire a contractor ourselves for some part of this rather than being the third party.
Good point.
Not just singling out Republic. Some of the other ones may do that too, but I know that for pretty sure.
Anto, do you have a?
Well,
some
after I
favorites?
listened to several mention, 1 to 4. So I think put number 6 add to the 4 would be 5. So I think it would be great ideas. Like Commissioner Pearcy said, might be different people have different skills, certain contract and so on and so forth.
So basically, same as Mr. Blair, 1 through 4, and then number 6? Okay. All right. Okay. That's it, right? Oh, and then myself. 1, 2. I would do 1, 2, 4, and 6 if I'm just going with 4. But Steve, I agree, and those are good points. I'm not saying that. What you're saying is, somebody may have, as we get into this. I don't know that. How do I say this? I think that the 4 or 5 we're selecting, I think, are the ones we're showing or we think have the most potential. But the ones that we may be leaving on the list certainly have some potential. It's just not meeting our full or bigger scope and needs at this point. But there may be a sleeper in there that once we understand that they're working with somebody already, they may be, somebody, a direct hire or a direct subcontractor that we just don't know about yet. So, all right. So let's just see if there's a tally. Or Rachel, have you been doing that? Okay. What have you surmised?
The top 4 is waste management, Republic Services, Fair Recycling, and Rockwood Sustainable Solutions. That's the top 4.
All right. So who was there a close 5th then, or were they all? Okay. Okay. All right. So, was that by any chance the top 4 as they were? No, Waste Away had. Let's see. No, I'm seeing if that was in line with the way they scored on the score sheet, and it was not. Okay. 1, 2, 4, and 6. Okay. All right. Sorry. 1, 2, 4, and 6. All right. So, Waste Management, Republic, Pratt, and Rockwood. Does anybody have any real strong feelings about Waste Away? That we want to get them back as a fifth? Mac does?
I really like their process, but as you said before, you know, the end product, what do you do with it other than maybe compost it?
Yeah.
That's an expensive compost operation at $74 million. So,
Yeah. I mean, unless Waste Away can show us a contract with TVA to take those fuel pellets and burn them and sell them, or I know they can burn them, but if they have a contract to substitute that for coal, and then I don't know where they unload it, truthfully.
I agree.
But yeah, landfill. I don't. Does anybody have a different opinion than me on that? Unless Waste Away shows us a contract with TVA that they'll take those pellets as a substitute to coal and burn it in lieu of, I don't know where they can get rid of it.
What? New Earth Energy did an RFI but did not do an RFP. Their process in product was a similar pellet to create a fuel source that they were going to ship somewhere else to use. So if they have a market for it, then there's markets out there. It may be that Waste Away is looking at trying to keep something local and not transportation wise, or be wherever. Now they've talked about several operations that they're working on the West Coast. I've been there multiple times. I don't even have to ask for my signature anymore. I've been there so many times. I really, like Wayne said, I believe in that process. Trying to find the market for it is maybe like trying to find a market for plastic today.
Yeah.
Things may have to change a little bit for that market to be there. One other company I want you to keep in mind for just one purpose is Straightway. They were the ones that talked most about mining our landfill. I would like to have a discussion just on that piece of their presentation, if that's possible for y'all to do. But that's something that I think we all agree that needs to be looked at really, really strongly, and at some point needs to be completed, because over the years, if we do nothing, that landfill is going to cost us millions of dollars just to babysit.
Yeah, good point. Do you guys care if we add them to a sit down just to discuss reclamation of our landfill? I mean, it's worth an hour or hour and a half's discussion, don't you think?
Maybe this is a Mac question, Mr. Chairman. And I hope you don't boo me out, but would an RFP for that process be appropriate? Because I know Republic made a presentation, but you got Straightaway. I was contacted by another company that was not involved in the RFI, apparently came late to the table. So I just wonder how many entities out there would be interested in reclaiming that for us. Just thinking out loud.
So I'm not sure I understand your question or statement. Is it? Well, okay, but
What he's asking for is if we do an RFP for landfill reclamation only,
yeah,
nothing else, and then let the people that are in that type of business come and show us or tell us what they may be able to do and how they would pull that off.
Okay.
I know for a fact there was 2 other landfill reclamation companies that was looking at it. They never did turn anything else in. Here's another reason I'm interested in it. Don Yancey is Straightway's guy, and he was the one that helped us get started in the electronics program down here. He was talking to TDEC about the permittation process. Nobody's done one because they hadn't dug one up. But TDEC is anxious to see what he comes up with, because there's 200 old closed landfills across the state of Tennessee. so that's a whole new business avenue for somebody to get into. And the other thing that I'd like for you to keep in the back of your head, and maybe even the front of your head, is the greater Nashville region is watching to see what we do. We've got the opportunity to lead the entire northern Middle Tennessee counties in a good direction. We've just got to make sure we pick that right direction. I think that our first focus, easy pickings, not easy doings, easy pickings. We can start the education process today. I mean, it doesn't matter what we're doing. We just got to figure out what we want to educate our public on. So we can start that today. Recycling, we already have started. We can enhance that today. So that's two things that we can get going. That's still solid waste issues, but not landfill issues necessarily. And then reclamation is a third one that we can get started on.
I guess my thought is, Wayne, and I'm not opposed to doing an RFP just for that, but I guess my thought process is, did our RFP not specifically have a single category for landfill reclamation, and those who wanted to participate could check that box? So I guess my question is, why would we need to do it again? And if those who chose not to do it the first time, I'm just confused as to the need.
And I don't know, maybe the scope of the overall project discouraged maybe some entities that specialized only in that process, and just maybe were intimidated about pursuing. I don't know. I'm just, and I'm not going to be upset if we don't do an RFP. I'm just, again, I was thinking more out loud to see what the pulse of the committee would be, rather than jumping out there and going through this process all over again.
Right. Steve?
With opening that box of another RFP, just a reminder, we've had a couple of RFPs that didn't meet the end date on getting filed correctly. So we've had a couple that was turned in that missed the deadline. So might be something that they could do or not do. One of the things in opening up our existing landfill was the smell process that was going on right now, which I understand the past 10 days they hadn't had smell for whatever, the heat, or they've changed something, or they've done something out there, whatever. Maybe the smell is gone. I don't know. But we've been reported that it has to a number of folks. But anyway, that was a big concern about opening that existing landfill and what smell comes out of there, or what gas is generated. It comes out of there. It's out in the open now. It's not collected. It's not maintained. There's a professional way, I'm sure, about doing this, and we've had the biggest ones that are in this type business that have presented the RFI and the RFP, but that's why we're throwing everything out on the table, trying to make sure we hit every facet of everything we can do as far as our solid waste. But I just want to throw that out there, that we've got a couple that could come back in and have some other feedback.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I would like to, that's a good idea. I like Wayne's, that train of thought. We may have to call out some component of this, because it's its own separate avenue. It may not. I thought initially that the reclamation would tie in with a recycler or a composter. Now we're just way ahead of a real robust MRF program. So I could really see that becoming a unique, separate pursuit, and simultaneous with these other elements. So I just want to echo that idea. That sounds intriguing. And were you concerned, your point that some people did not make the RFP cut, were you concerned we're opening a door to be liable because we didn't accept some and now we're asking for more? Or you're just saying there's other ideas out there we didn't even get a chance to consider.
The main thing, Commissioner, I was just saying that there's two that we got that y'all didn't get to hear as a committee because they missed the deadline, and we didn't want to. Theirs was in as far as price and all that sort of stuff, so I know that was a concern, that now that everybody's out, oh sure, somebody else can come back in and undercut them or whatever, but we already had those. They just come in later before we even opened them, so to speak,
Okay.
but they did come in after the deadline, so that's why they didn't get to you.
And one other point about the reclamation, I think the RFP we put out was so broad that I could see it discouraging a reclamation outfit because they didn't want to get involved in all the
paperwork.
and all the extracurricular components. They may not have wanted to do that. So I'm intrigued by that.
You're a construction guy and you deal with RFIs, RFPs, and those kind of contracts all day long. Would you agree or disagree that an RFP request specifically for reclamation, it would be a good idea?
I think it would draw those entities that are specifically interested and have the skill set for that service. I think it could be beneficial. And there's, like we've discussed, I'm going sideways here in property management. We're discussing is there a better way to get requests for proposals out to the market. We've had some history we've discovered of selecting some people we know are in the business as opposed to using the current professional avenues to get to those who are pursuing that type of work specifically. And I think we're going to have to hit our civil engineer friends and find out what are those avenues to pinpoint the professions we're looking for. And this may be a case for that, Chairman.
All right.
Well, this was one thing for sure in this RFI and RFP of why you hired Becky, because she was into industry and knew these industry folks from whatever state they're in or country that they're in, and we leaned on her to get all this out, and she used her knowledge and background to get those 28, I think, in the RFI, but out of those 28, that's what we were hoping. We were going to get 28 RFPs, and then we got 9, so we was really disappointed that we didn't get 28. We only got 9, but that's part of doing business, though, too, So we was really excited when we got those 28 RFIs, but then in the RFPs, you're like, man, why didn't we get more, Is it because we're in Tennessee and not up north or down south further or out west or out east, or in another country or something, so.
Mr. Dodd, from your professional background, if we put out, instead of an RFP, an all-out bid with a scope of work, we want this to happen at our landfill, would we be able to attract more people that would be interested in a specific job? We want it dug up, we want it remediated, we want all the environmental issues cleaned up, whatever those type things is what we want, where the person we're reaching out to can understand this is what they're asking for. Right now we're so broad, they'd really have a hard time trying to come up with something. They don't know what we want. And it may be part of it. We're not sure exactly what we want. We just want it cleaned up. We're not sure how.
There's some validity to that. And despite Becky's expertise, we may have gotten too broad for some industries. So, I think I could support part of this we may need to set aside and pursue independently.
Let me go back to the waste away thing for 1 second. Again, could you use that material for cover at the landfill? I don't know, maybe. Do they have a contract with TVA? I don't think so yet. Maybe they're listening and they could send us one. But the other thing is, remember, they wanted us to spend like $50,000, $75,000, and then $100,000, if my memory serves, to do a study to see, how it all works. So if we want to continue with them, we're going to have to lay out some cash. So
Let me explain that process.
Yeah.
They have had groups like us for 30 years to come visit them. How many times have we been to visit them?
Once.
Oh, we've been multiple times.
Well, me personally.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I think that was our last visit was my either 7th or 8th time to be there since I've been solid waste director.
Yeah.
So they're spinning their wheels, talking to people, and they think they're interested until they hear what it is, and they're not interested. So what they're trying to do now is cover their costs.
Yeah.
If you want, let's pay us this much, we'll get you to here. That's a decision point, and then we'll get you to another decision point, and you can make either decision either way you want, in or out. That's the reason they have it set up that way, and I think it's a wise business move for them and for us, if you're going to go that path.
Yeah. I just wanted to remind you that there's an upfront fee to have a discussion. If we say we don't like it, we still are out whatever much money we put in.
They came in number 3 on our scoring,
Yeah.
Wasteway.
Yeah.
And we're inviting our municipality partners to the table. I would think it'd be appropriate to include them in the discussion, even if it's not presently viable with an end product, but our city partners may want to have an opportunity to question their process, to talk about it, and of course, making a 90% dent into our waste stream is pretty amazing. So I wish they had a contract with TVA that they can make the briquettes and replace the coal, but like you said, that's not possible right now.
Wasteway was number 5 on the...
Mr. Chairman, I'm ready to make a motion.
Hold on one second.
5.
On our internal tally.
Yes, it was
Okay, all right. Go. Yeah.
I had a tally of Waste Management 5, Republic 5, Pratt 5, Rockwood 5, Wasteway 2. I make a motion that all 5 of those entities be invited back on at least one occasion, and that's my motion, that we invite those 5 and interview those 5 at our first consensus opportunity.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Mac?
I think it would be in our best interest to have questions instead of just them coming and telling us things.
Yeah.
They gave us presentations of what their possible solutions could be or what their services could be. I think we need to pick some of those services or solutions that we want to be more interested in and narrow it down a little more than just being so broad as it is right now.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And we'll work on that. We certainly will work on that. And I'm all for, aside from your motion in second, I'm all for giving what I will call the local group Wasteway. I mean, they're Middle Tennessee business. I'm for giving them a little,
And we may have...
throw them a bone, okay?
We may have a fresh set of questions from our municipalities as well.
Yes.
I know they're watching it, and I've talked to a couple, and they may have things that we haven't really thought of yet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Did you have your hand up, Craig? Or yes, sir. Go ahead. Did you have a question?
I'm kind of agreeing with, I can't believe it, I'm agreeing a little bit with Mac. What I'd like to do is, that would help us out a lot, is pick the ones that you want, and then let's have a meeting with us on that particular entity and come up with what we want to talk about as far as, questions, how is this going to work, how is it going to be implemented, how much is it going to cost, get a little bit more, and be prepared for them and have them answer those questions. Because I think we don't need to just bring them back in here, and listen to them do their presentation all over again, but have some hard, discuss amongst ourselves the questions.
Right.
And then once we get those, the chairman then can ask the questions and they can address what our needs are. But I think we need to meet as a group to be more prepared when they come back in here.
Mr. Chairman, if you want the committee to send the questions to the mayor's office, we can compile those so we're not duplicating ourselves. Some folks may have the same ones or whatever, and everybody here put in those questions as well as offer it to our municipalities and what questions they may have, and we would put those all into a form, and like Commissioner Harris was saying, then we would go over all those as a meeting or just email them out to everybody, with what about these? What do we need to do about these questions? Answers, more input from the company, blah, blah, blah. Whatever we could do.
All right. Are you suggesting that maybe at our next meeting that we pick like the top two and we sit down and hash out what we liked? The costing thing, go through our notes, go through our summary of notes that we took, and then from that we maybe knock out 2 or 3 at our next meeting and put together some individual specific questions for those.
It's just my proposal. What I propose is that we as a group talk about it. We do our homework, come in here, we have our hard questions, we get ready for them. Then you bring them in there with the municipalities, and they can hear the hard questions and what we say and go with it from there. Because, I'm going to drill the next round. I just, but there's a lot of questions I got. And like I said, I agree with Mac. We need to be more pinpointed on what we're going to say.
Right.
Instead of just sitting here listening to another presentation, then the hard questions get asked.
Yeah.
And the municipalities can jump in there as well.
Yeah. Are you okay with, let's say at our next meeting, or say it takes 2 meetings, let's say we go through and develop a list of questions for these, say 5 participants, all right? Are you okay with us then sharing those questions with the cities prior to us all coming together with the applicant?
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Just wanted to make sure.
Well, I think those questions need to be sent to the proposals.
Yeah.
Give them ample time to study that question and make sure they give the answer that, if we catch them cold, they may be just, well, no, we don't currently do that. Well, they may figure out a way that they can.
That's fair. Is that okay with you, Craig? All right.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The committee in a public hearing, or not a public hearing, but public notice, the committee, I'd like to have a whiteboard. I'd like let's get some ideas up on the board, follow that process, and maybe I want to talk about having Becky back. Maybe she could be our facilitator. But I think that's a great idea, and that may lead to 2 meetings. I don't want to prolong this, but I support that fully. Our next meeting needs to be that, in my opinion, before we have anybody else back in.
Yeah.
And from that meeting, we may, if my motion passes, we may have all 5 of them in the next time, or it may take us a couple of times, Craig. But
I'm sorry, I did get off track. I apologize to both of you. We had a motion and a second to bring those 5 back. So will you repeat? We can do it by, we're not spending any money, so we'll do it by acclamation. Will you repeat the motion?
Commissioner Dodd made the motion to invite back Pratt Recycling, Republic Services, Rockwood Sustainable Solutions, Waste Management, and Waste Away, and Commissioner Blair seconded.
Everybody understand?
Question.
Yes.
By bringing Waste Away back, are we obligated to pay them any type of funds for this visit, or is it still just a visit?
Say that one more time. Are we obligated to pay?
Are we obligated to pay them? Is this our $50,000 pop? They come back again? Because I'm not for paying them $50,000
Oh, no.
without
Yeah,
any use
no.
of their product.
That signature, that required a contract, Steve. It's a great question, but that doesn't kick in until there's a contract between us and them. And the first part is the conceptual phase of $50K, but only after we are under contract with them, was my understanding.
Yeah, no, we're not exchanging any money, American or Belgian. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, fantastic.
In regards to Craig's question, I would like to have the discussion in preparation for making a motion to have Becky be available to us, perhaps on an hourly rate, beginning with the next meeting, if we have a consensus to that. And also, in that motion, I may add legal consultation, whether it's in the same motion. I don't know how to box it up, but I think we do need to have both of those professional counselings. And so I'm going to make two motions. Number one, I make a motion that we, through a fund that we already have, I believe we have the consultation money from the previous study set aside. You thought, Steve, do we know the GBB? Did we have any funds already set aside?
That was not in this year's budget. We have money in fund balance. We can do a budget amendment and put money in a fund, but we don't actually have one in the line today.
It's not in his budget. It'll have to come out of ending fund balance.
And so I don't know if my motion needs to include where the funds come from, but I make a motion that we provide a fund to utilize Caldwell Engineering or Caldwell Services on an as-needed basis.
Yeah, it'll have to go to budget. Yeah.
With the funding mechanism being decided at budget or...
That will delay us a couple of weeks because it'll have to go to budget from this committee and then on to full commission.
Right.
Is that a clear motion?
Motion to provide funding utilizing Caldwell Services on an as-needed basis.
Hourly.
I think hourly basis, yeah.
Do we know those numbers?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to vote on something that I don't know what it's going to cost me.
You want to put a box around it?
Absolutely. I don't. Yes, I do, because you're on budget and you understand. I mean, it's got to go through you. Yeah. Eventually.
So just we hadn't seconded it yet. So if you help me clarify, put a dollar not to exceed X dollars or anything you want to do to get comfortable. I don't know what her contract with the city is.
Got one comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to make sure that the committee's aware that our contract ran out with Ms. Caldwell and her services. She is now contracted with the city to consult with them. I don't know if people feel that's a conflict or not, but if given the direction, you still want to go with her to consult with us on an hourly basis as well as the city, we'll both be paying for her to come to that meeting. I'll be happy to reach out to her tomorrow and see what her hourly rate would be.
Did you say she's with as a consultant?
That's what Mayor McFarland shared with me.
Yeah.
She's on an hourly.
I think so. I think she's on an hourly rate with the city.
And I may be naive, but I feel like that's an opportunity to collaborate as opposed to conflict. But I don't know the legal ramifications.
She said she could do both if we needed, but I think she would need to get clarification from the city and the city's legal Just a reminder, we have a public works meeting June 8th, which is not that far away. We may want to, and I know I don't want to delay, but we may want to defer that motion until we can chat with Becky and chat with Mayor McFarland as to her availability to us.
Mr.
Yeah,
Dodd?
and also cost.
Mr.
And
Dodd can
cost.
make his motion and we can approve it, and we've got a budget meeting June the 2nd. Can we not shoot it down on June the 2nd if it's above whatever the mayor finds out on the hourly rate to keep this ball moving, rather than waiting to the 8th?
I don't have a problem with that.
Because the budget can turn it down, no problem. If it's more than,
Yeah.
So this is a contingency motion, basically, contingent upon what that rate would be or might be.
Steve, do you have any recollection as what the math was on her former rate with us?
It was a flat fee.
Flat fee?
A flat fee, $50,000
Yeah.
to take us through to here,
RFI and RFP process.
through the RFP process, yeah.
Okay.
So technically, the RFP process might not be done if we're still talking to them, but she said at the beginning, and not to muddy the water, that she was with us through the process of the RFP. But then her attorney said, you correct me, Mayor, that needed to put an end date on it, and I understand that being in contracts, need to have an end date. So they put an end date on it.
Well, that's true, but she said she was with us through the process, but obviously she doesn't think that our contract's still valid because she's not here tonight.
What if we put just a dollar amount cap on it?
Yeah, that's what I'm just something to get us,
And something we could always maybe, put $10,000 on it, and then if we didn't use it, we didn't use it all. We needed.
And maybe I'm impulsive to do it all, because I'm thinking our next meeting, I'd like to have her understanding knowledge of the industry and expertise on board, and perhaps we need to know when that next meeting is. If it's a month from now, we have some time to maybe we discuss this in budget first.
Yeah.
Again, I'm open to whatever the consensus is. Definitely need to put a cap on it. Whatever we do, we need to get Craig's answered.
Well, can we not get that information before June 8th?
Yeah, but Pearcy's thought was budget meets the 2nd. Could we get it done before the 2nd, and then budget could approve it with the contingency that if it, yeah. What if you just put a $10,000 amount in there as a placeholder?
It looks like we meet on the 3rd. We got school board budget before that. So June the 3rd is another budget meeting. And I don't even know if I would be willing to put a $5,000, not to exceed $5,000 to get a consultant in place for our next meeting, our next solid waste subcommittee. Just, I'd go $2,500, whatever, just something to get us moving. Contingent on receiving hourly rates. So the motion is engage Becky on an hourly rate, contingent on getting this term sheet from her, and this motion would not to exceed $5,000.
Do we have a second?
I second it for further discussion.
Yes, sir. No, there wouldn't really be a timeline. It just, when that 5's up, we would then see if we could do an extension, or that would be it.
Is there anyone else with her expertise that we could utilize, since she does have a relationship with the city at this time? I mean, I would have no idea if there was someone else out there that would be. I thought she was extremely valuable, extremely knowledgeable, and very helpful. And you know, I don't know if there's anybody else out there with her expertise that we would have as high regard for as we do her.
Yeah, Wayne, I don't know. Not to my knowledge. And Mac may have a better answer to that question. And also too, it may be that the two mayors have over coffee say, "Hey man, you know, we paid for her in full up to this point. Well, why don't you pay for her for a little while and help?"
So, are you telling me I got to buy him a pecan waffle, or?
Yeah, and, you know, we can use her on your nickel for a little while, or maybe we split the cost. You know, there's a couple other ways to skin that cat.
It might be some of the other entities might be interested in pitching in a little too if we asked them.
You mean the cities? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're going to be a part of it, they need to be a part of contributing to the fund.
Yeah. Yeah.
We may be a step ahead right there.
Yeah, I may modify my motion to say to hire Becky for our next meeting to facilitate a conversation, so that we don't, if we're going to pursue other consultants or collaboration with the city, but I think I want her for the next meeting, where we're going to put our questions together and get
questions. Yeah.
I think so ultimately that was my first goal, was to have her facilitate the next conversation. So can I change the motion to hire Becky Caldwell for one meeting to facilitate, if she's willing, and her term sheet is agreeable?
You'll have to withdraw your present motion, will you not?
I was going to say, can I modify it? So I don't. Robert's rules, I don't know if I need to withdraw it or modify it.
Draw, and then I'd withdraw.
I would withdraw your original motion.
I withdraw my motion.
And you withdraw your second. All right. So there's a new motion, which is?
I make a motion that we acquire services of Caldwell Services for our facilitation meeting at an hourly rate to be determined by the mayor.
Second.
And I'll put a limit on it, if we're not to exceed $500.
Do you think we should have waited and let her come to our second meeting? Because the first one is going to be up this wall and around that chair and everywhere else. We may not be ready for her advice by the first meeting.
The first meeting is
Question development.
this committee putting together our questions. I want a whiteboard. I want a facilitator. I want to walk through the processes of. I think we need her guidance at our next conversation. Does that make sense?
You know, the thought process is our next meeting is us chickens developing some serious questions to ask these major applicants.
Now I have a question for you.
All right.
When they ask you how much trash do you have, what can you tell them? Or how many households that their contract is going to furnish, what can you tell them? Because we have no idea yet.
Yeah.
We have no answers from anybody else that might want to participate in this. We don't know. I'm not trying to be ugly.
No,
I'm putting that out there to you. What can you tell them? We'll be back just like the RFP. They really couldn't give us basic numbers or price or facts because we couldn't give them the information that they could base their numbers on.
That's a great question, and all we could do is come up with some agreeable baseline between MAC and Darren / the city of Murfreesboro and whoever else wants to give us that information. to come up with a same baseline that we would share with all the applicants is, this is all we can give you, it's our best guess, and these are the numbers you need to figure off of. And we understand that it could be up, could be down, but this is all we got.
That'll be one thing we'll need to
Put in writing.
find out in the first meeting, in our next meeting then, because there's no need of going forward without some type of information to give them like that.
Right. We've got to eliminate as many assumptions as possible and get down to some basic foundation that we can share with these people.
Are you talking about the 88,000 tons that we have collaboratively going into Republic now? Is that the number you're talking about?
They'll need to know how many households they're going to service, how many tons of trash they're going to service. You know, sure, we've got, Rutherford County, we got a pretty good estimate on the city. Do you know what Smyrna and Laverne's got? Do you have any idea? If they come to the table and say, yeah, we want in on this,
Oh, I
do
see
you
what
know
you're
how
saying.
much they've got?
I see what you're saying.
So they can't bid on a out-of-air number. They're going to have to know, we're going to be speculating here for another year or two.
I got you.
Of wondering what's
Because
going on.
I was thinking you were asking
Hold on,
like
since I
the
looked at it.
88,000 tons that we know, but there's additional
we know
for
that,
whoever's
but
picking
do-
up for Laverne and Smyrna.
Right.
I got you.
We don't have facts.
Back, didn't we, during the RFI process, wasn't all that information disseminated, estimated for Smyrna and Laverne? The tonnage, population, I believe all that information's been sent out.
Or the tonnage is from what our convenience centers haul. Now, we can break it down, Weekly Lane, Sandhill, Almaville, we can break
Yeah.
it down that way. I don't think we had a household number, though.
Well,
Yeah,
remember.
we had when they asked for questions,
correct.
and Steve submitted new questions that they had. They were submitted to you and Becky, and you sent them back out. All those numbers were in there.
Yeah, there was 1 ton per person per year. So they were talking, if we're
5,000
315,000
households.
people, then there's 315,000 tons.
That's correct. We've already
in
gone down that
Rutherford
road.
County. So
they have a good idea. All we got to do is just reprint it.
You are correct. I don't remember what the numbers are, but Mr. Mitchell came up with the house numbers that we were needing. You are
That's
correct.
It was 35,000 is the number we gave. Households.
Countywide.
Yeah. All right. So where are we? Did we modify a motion and we got a second? And you wanted some discussion. Did we get your discussion? Yes. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of that motion for how many dollar limit for Becky at the next meeting or two? Was it a 500?
One meeting.
One meeting. So what if we're planning on doing one long meeting, getting all our questions laid out?
No, if it sounded like it was getting I was trying to make sure we had our next meeting, we had some guidance on the next meeting, and it started getting complicated So I'm trying to make sure our next meeting's on. The next meeting, we may vote to have her come to another one. Well, I think we have some clarity with what the city's doing by then. That's my point.
Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Okay. Let me look at my to-do list one more time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would also like to, if not have some conversation, but, I'm prepared to make a motion if Commissioner Dodd doesn't want to, on his second part, about having some legal representation, or maybe not representation, but consultation regarding solid waste. I have high respect for our county attorney, but I think that's a specialty that's certainly going to we're going to have to look outside the box for, and I would like for us to let the mayor pursue finding someone who could advise us as we move forward with solid waste, specifically what authority we would have as far as ordinances for cooperation with whatever decision this committee and this commission were to make.
All right. So to be clear, would that person help us with contract writing amongst these applicants, and also if we have any questions about our current contract with said company, help us with clarity on that, on things we could or couldn't do. Is that where you're going?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. So this is a motion to budget some fees in case we need some legal advice or contract assistance.
Rather than setting a price at this point, I would like to, for this committee to direct the mayor to pursue an expert in that area and to determine what those costs per hour might be.
All right, I would like to think that the city may want to help us pay for some of that legal advice too. They had mentioned that they may have some interest in sharing that cost, but for now, I think that's a good, something to at least budget for. So did everybody, go ahead, Mac.
You need a environmental attorney, not just any attorney.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Let's make your motion say an environmental attorney.
To direct the mayor to investigate and look for an environmental attorney and determine the qualifications and what that price might be.
All right, sounds good. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor, please signify aye. Do we need a roll call on that since there may be some money spent?
Spending money.
Yeah. Let's do a roll call just to be on the safe side.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Pearcy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right, very good. What else have we not covered?
I think we need to go back and revisit this landfill reclamation request for a bid. You know, if you want to put it out for a bid, put it out for RFP, whatever. This is something that we could be working on now through our next 6 years or whatever life is left.
Right.
And be working on that, because it's going to be a dead expense on the county.
All right.
And it could very easily be less expense to do it than it would be to keep it.
Yep, I agree. Go ahead.
I'm going to share my thoughts. I think this next meeting is landfill, recycling, the four components, reclamation. I think I would like to save that. I'm not trying to kick it down the road or make the next meeting a 8-hour meeting, but I think I want to hear from everybody. What does this end picture look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 from now, and decide if we're going to kick off that reclamation part or leave it in.
Let me re-clarify what I just said. I would like to know what it would cost to remove our county landfill dollar-wise and not for a deal or a trade-off on something. That way we'll know what it's worth to do it when we get ready to go further on. Because there's bound to be companies out there that would come in there and do it for a rate and not a trade or swap, a deal, you know, what's behind door 1, 2, or 3. I'd like to know what the dollar was, and then we can move.
I believe one company mentioned the word nominal fee for a swap for reclamation of our landfill.
In this county's interest, I'm really not for a swap, a deal, or what's behind door number 3.
So, yeah, ideally, we'd like to know what it would take for us to get rid of the future liability, which means no more leachate, which means take it down to what I will call the foundation. Then how can we dispose of that? Do we ship it out? Do we take it to Republic? Do we recycle it?
I would think that would be their responsibility if they bid on doing the removal of it.
Right. So is the suggestion then we create a more detailed RFP specifically for the Rutherford County landfill reclamation, and then set a due date for, I don't know, August, something like that?
I agree with that, except on one note.
Yes, sir.
I think Mac should give us hard numbers on what it would take for us as a county to fix the landfill.
To fix the landfill.
Have to dig it up and fix the problems that we have with
If we do it,
it.
if we do it ourselves.
Do it ourselves, yes. So if we know that number, then we'll be able to get a better understanding of what they're saying. You know, it's going to cost us $13 million to do it, and they come in here and say it's going to be $1 million, then we know right then that, you know, that ain't going to work.
Are you saying do that in lieu of having somebody else bid on that, or
I think that should be one of the components that we're looking at. I mean, that should be just a bid of its own that we're looking at, because as a county and commissioners, we have to agree to allocate that kind of money to fix the landfill that we have right now. And that's a substantial amount of money, according to Mac, which, again, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm agreeing with him that it's a substantial amount of money. But we don't know. He said, you know, he said, what, 10, 11 million, somewhere in that area. I'd just like to know how much it would cost. And can you do that, Mac? I mean,
It would just be guesstimates.
good guesstimates.
I can get Jeff Postel to work on that. We've got some information. We can kind of go that direction. May be able to get you close to what you want. I don't think we can get you exactly what you want because there's so many variables there.
Within $1 million?
Probably.
Okay.
Craig, let me ask you, are you suggesting that we do this with our own county forces? Is that what you're?
Well, I'm just saying that it is something that we have talked about as a county fixing this. I mean, Commissioner Pearcy just brought that up, but I don't know how much it would cost and how bad it's going to be a blow to the county. If we know that, then I think it would help us more in our negotiations with other companies that want to do that.
Okay. You just want to know what the baseline would be?
Yes, sir.
And then, so if somebody says it's $15 million, we think, oh my gosh, where'd that number come from?
Absolutely.
Okay, I understand.
I was confusing two different things, though, and I can ask Mike or Commissioner Harris. We're talking about reclaiming. That's a whole different piece than you're saying fix as far as the leachate blowout that we just had. Fixing that and
I'm
whatever
talking
other
about
repairs.
digging it up and fixing it with a new membrane, with a new
Oh, okay. You are
runner
talking
and
about
all that. I'm
reclaim.
talking about that. I mean, we've been putting Band-Aids on this thing for years. It's time that we see exactly how much it costs for us to fix it, instead of having to pay the $100,000 or ever how much thousand you got to pay each year for leachate breaks.
Okay. All right.
That answer your question?
Kind of. If you're talking about putting a new membrane down and taking that trash and putting it on a liner now, that's a whole nother deal and reclaiming, because then you're talking about a company coming in. They're going to take the dirt and pile it over here. They're going to take the trash and it's got to go somewhere, either recycled or next door or something, and then taking it all the way down. And then here's our property back the way we found it back years ago. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not wanting.
No, I get what you're saying. That's up to them, how they want to do it. But if we don't decide on a company to do this, if we do not come to agreement on a company, we got to fix it. We need to know how much it costs to fix it.
That doesn't relieve us of our liability.
No,
That's true.
but it doesn't mean we're going to make deals neither. I mean, if, somebody comes in and the number is $50-60 million, and then, we're going, well, we got to go to a second round. I just need to know what that avenue is. I'm not saying doing anything. I'm just telling you we need to know all the factors. We have got to play this game to the T. We have to know every number. We have to know everything when we make this decision. And this is one of the things that I want to know. And I think Matt can get me close to what I need.
Yeah. We just need to know what a budget
Absolutely.
is, yeah. And then we'll look for what real numbers are.
That would be two different things, though, Mac. I mean, a reclamation as far as taking it all the way down, no liability. The trash is over here now, or gone, what I'm saying. The trash is gone. Dirt's over here. We could sell the dirt, or we could spread it out over our acreage out there, or taking it down, putting it on a liner, and redoing it. That's kind of putting ourselves back into the landfill business.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Harris, I think what he's speaking of is we dig up our landfill, but we create a new landfill space just to put that stuff in. We're not bringing anything off-site in. We're just burying what we can't get rid of, we can't recycle. And is that what you're speaking of?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about completely repairing the landfill and the problems that we have. If that is digging it up and putting it somewhere else, that's what I'm talking about. Am I confusing everybody? Okay. It's just the fact that we don't have a liner right now in our landfill. We're having breaks. We have got to fix this. My entire hope is that someone comes in and reclaims it. That's what I'm hoping.
Which to me, the only way to fix it is to get it down to level ground.
Absolutely. Or if it comes to a point we can't make a deal, then this county needs to know how much money it's going to take to fix the problems that we have.
Okay.
So that's what I'm just saying. It's simply we need to know all numbers. So if I'm losing, you just let me know.
Okay, but I think really what you're saying is we have to take it down to raw foundation, whether we build a soccer field on top of it or we decide to put a liner down and build a new landfill one day.
Absolutely.
But the point of stop is you get it down to ground zero.
Right.
Or the foundation, and then you decide what you're going to do with it. Build a pool,
Yes.
Swimming pool, or a landfill.
But we got to fix it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay. So, do we think we can squeeze Becky for 15 minutes to help us with an RFP at our meeting for reclamation? The answer is yes.
But clarification is, reclamation it's disappearing from our site.
Correct.
Repair is to dig it up, set it someplace, put a liner, and then throw it back on top of the liner. Is that basically the process?
That would be how I would define that. Which, yeah.
So,
we're talking about reclamation.
Okay, so reclamation is basically going to be through the RFP. Repair would be something that MAC could come up with.
Yeah. Our reclamation would be, what we want to know is how much does it cost to make it disappear, get us out of any future liability, because we're going to get rid of the leachate issue, because we're going to get rid of the water, the trash, everything.
Yeah,
level ground.
I concur.
Level ground. Okay. Any questions? Any further discussion on any topic? Next meeting. All right. You budget guys tell me where we are in conflict, okay? So tell me what you can't do. And this is the end of May. I'm looking at June right now, so tell me what's off limits.
Rachel?
Mr. Dodd, is the next budget June 1st?
Yes.
Okay, that's right, I've got it right.
We review the school board.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the third.
And then the 3rd, so I've got them listed. Yeah, so every picky smell, so Fridays.
So these are budget days right here?
So yeah,
Okay.
budget, redistricting.
Okay.
Budget, PDA, steering, BZA. So BZA's been running over, so I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. We could do the small room if we had to.
The whiteboard.
Yeah.
It's just us.
Yeah.
We might be all right with that.
Or maybe even the mezzanine across the street if we had to.
Rachel, do you have anything June 9th?
BZA is here.
And they've been running over the last.
Meeting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to have a whiteboard and stuff, so you think we'd still have the room?
There's 30 seats in there, plus the...
June 9th is the first availability in the room next door, or perhaps the mezzanine across the street in planning. After that, we have, does this mean anything?
That's commission, that's full commission.
Oh, full commission, okay. Public safety, health and ed, budget, property management. Jeez. Other than that, Wednesday the 30th is the next available date.
Unless we do it Friday.
Yeah, unless you want to do Fridays, which nobody's really excited about.
So June 30. June 30.
June 30. And we also have a June 9th. We okay with June 9th? Can you reach out to Becky and see if she's available June 9th? All right, I'm going to ink it in, June 9th. Solid Waste Subcommittee, 5:30. And then you want to temporarily pencil in June 30th?
That is,
That's a
the
Wednesday.
last week of June and the first week of July is most of the all people on vacation.
Okay, all right, then.
So I would definitely go with that.
All right, we'll scratch that. We'll just lock in June 9th for now, and then we'll have our questions ready. We'll get our questions ready, we'll get our questions in order. We'll pick Becky's brain on an RFP for land reclamation, landfill reclamation. We will share our questions with the cities, the stakeholders. In the meantime, we're going to get a letter, invitation letter put together for the city stakeholders. We'll mail, I can hand deliver some face-to-face, let them know we're serious. What else? Help me.
Mr. Chairman, contacting the mayors, what I'd like to do, since we went to San Jose in February of 19, every time I've talked to the mayors on different occasions, usually about every month, I've kept them in the loop as to what we're doing. So just as late as the day before yesterday with the mayor, Cole and Laverne, talked to him, talked to the day before with Mary Esther, keeping them in the loop of what this committee has been doing. So what I'd like to do is to, and told them that we were going through the process. They were saying, where are we, what are we doing, etc. We were separating the wheat from the chaff, if you will, going through all of the RFIs, the RFPs, like you said, that we paid for during that process. So if you wouldn't mind, let me just give them a call and let them know that the letter's coming. We'll prepare the letter and with the formal invitation, if that's fine with you and the committee.
Perfect. All right, review your notes, review the summary, and be thinking about questions, be thinking about cross-partnerships with some of these companies, how they can work together to achieve a common goal. Rethink.
She's not available.
Dadgummit. All right, scratch June 9th. Scratch June 9th. There really was no other June. I mean, as fast as I looked at that, there's really
she's
no.
out of town the 6th through the 17th.
Of June?
So you can do Friday. The only thing we got is Friday. And then she's out again June 24th through July the 2nd. So.
Okay. All right. So unless you guys want to meet on a Friday, June 18th, we need to go to July. And let me see, July. She's out when on July? She's out through the 2nd, right?
2nd of July.
Okay. And then we have steering on the 5th and 6th. We have the 7th open, July 7th.
This is a holiday. I've got to move steering. I've got to talk to him to see about that.
Okay, all right. Okay, what about July 7th, Wednesday? You're out? Okay. Planning, is it? Yeah. The 13th, Perdita.
Well, guy, you know what dead period is. If you're a football player, that's the only time you get.
What is that? Oh, that's full commission.
No, there's not one. So that's the regular formulation of it, but there's nothing there. So
Okay.
we can work through that.
What about Thursday, the 15th of July? There is no, normally that would be full commission, but there is not one that night. I'm not opposed. Anybody dead set against Friday? You're dead set again. Yeah, we have a dead set, yes. All right, so that throws it back to July 15th. Do we have any takers? July 1-5. Anybody conflicted with July 15th? All right, will you text her real quick and see if she's okay with that? Again, that was supposed to be full commission, but that is not going to happen that night.
Technically, the July commission is
On the 28th, it's the 28th,
morning,
yeah.
so we don't have one.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. All right. Let's wait 30 seconds to see if she replies.
She's in process.
Okay.
She says she's not back in Tennessee until July 15th.
So is that a yes or a no? Yeah.
We say what time?
Yeah. Can you make a 5:30?
Oh, she says, sorry, July 17th. That's not going to work either.
Dadgummit. I should have brought an eraser. 15th is out.
What about Monday the 19th?
How about Monday the 19th? July 19th, Monday.
She's not answered. Just a second. She says that works.
Gentlemen? Solid waste. Once you know I'm giving up a golf tournament, just so you know. July 19th, solid waste,
5:30?
5:30. Yeah, I know. They can find a D player for sure.
If we can only find one day, is this going to be a marathon, and do we need to start earlier?
I don't know that early's not an option. Some of us aren't retired like you, Wayne.
Wait a minute.
I got a paper route.
Okay, bus routes aren't going in July.
Yeah. We slaughter hogs in the summertime.
And I'm way not retired.
You want to pick some more dates while we're having fun, or you want to just stop right there? He's okay. We have a stop. All right, meeting adjourned.